Hi there, it's Stephen at iPhotography. I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for coming along to watch this video because today, one of the things I find as a portrait photographer is when you are having to do an edit of lots and lots of images, you know one thing that's going to be occurring all the time. Because if you spent time with your subject, your clients, then they may have talked to you about specific things that they don't like about themselves. And sometimes that is body shape, but a lot of the time, it'll come down to skin, blemishes, things like that. And naturally with photographers, they just associate us with being able to Photoshop it out. And whilst that's possible, when you've got lots and lots of images to actually work on, time is of the essence, and obviously you want quality. And the more and more images that you're actually doing it to manually, by the time you get to like the 20th or 30th picture, you're just like, oh, I'll just do this bit, and it becomes a little bit sloppier. So anything that can come along in the photography world when it comes to editing or embracing AI that makes that job consistent, fast and easy to do, so you're not having to spend ages on all the different elements of retouching, I think is an absolute blessing. And this is why our friends over at Retouch4Me got in contact to say, hey, this is a really cool tool that we've got. Want to try it out, give it a fly, see what you think of it. And I've got some pictures from a little while ago where the skin's not absolutely fantastic on our models, bless them, but that's not their fault, that's just being human. But there are some little elements that I know they would appreciate me taking out. This Retouch4Me is available either as a standalone product itself, or you can use it as a plug-in panel, as you can see on the screen here, for Photoshop. I think that's a lot easier than using it personally as a separate piece of software, because it's just another piece of software. I don't need to have more. If I can integrate it into what I've got already, that's much better. So how it works, once you've got the panel itself and you've got the tools that you want to use, to be able to actually use them and apply them to your images, you will need to subscribe to get credits. So basically, for every image that you edit, every time that you use one tool, you will use one credit on an image. So it's really, really easy on Retouch4Me. You can subscribe and pay monthly and basically get a bundle of credits that you can use if you're going to be using it quite regularly, which if you're a portrait photographer is an absolute dream. But either way, let's get some images on screen. We'll have a look at some of the tools that are in the panel and we'll show you how easy it is. I'm looking for speed and efficiency. That's kind of my main key, because as a portrait photographer, as I said, if you're using lots of images, you want to be getting through this really, really quickly. So that's kind of the one things that I'm kind of focusing more on. So we've got our image here of our model, and as you can see, there's a little bit of, you could say, imperfections on the skin. There's nothing imperfect about skin, really. It's just how conscious people are, I suppose, about blemishes that they may want removing that are just temporary things that happen kind of around the time of the shoot. That's just normal. I'm not saying we should be taking out freckles or moles or beauty spots, etc. Those are part of people, really. I think we should leave those in. Either way, so this is our panel up here. Okay, so we get a little notification as to how many retouches we've got left based upon how many credits that we've purchased, and we have got our two little kind of sub panels under here of cloud retouch and on device. So I'm going to use it basically via the cloud. So any kind of computations, any bits of work that's going on is effectively being done by AI algorithms connected to Retouch4Me's cloud service. So providing you've got a fairly decent internet connection, no, this shouldn't be too hard for it to do. It shouldn't be too slow. And again, obviously depending upon the size of the image, whether it's a raw image, I've only got a JPEG here to make it kind of nice and quick. So all you need to do is just turn on the tool that you want to use. So we've got heal, we've got mattifier, dodge and burn, portrait volume, skin tone, eye vessels, eye brilliance, white teeth, fabric, clean backdrop. Some of those I'm not going to need because I just don't have them as relevance as part of the shot. So I'm going to turn on heal to begin with, and either we can click this little play button at the side here or just press retouch at the bottom. So the AI tool is basically going to assimilate, look through the image, look for any little imperfections, things it feels that it could retouch, it can improve, etc. And then it will give you an output here. Now, it gives us two different layers. So we've originally got our backdrop, and then we've also got the heal. So now if we actually just slide our main retouch panel to one side, let's get in a little bit closer and actually see what it's done. So that is the original image, and that is the retouch. So if you actually unclick your background, you can see where it's patched over any of the skin blemishes, and it's done a really good job, in fairness. If I look at it across the board, if I go up to a forehead, you can certainly see how it's taken out some little of the little kind of blemishes on her skin. I'm just looking around because I don't want it to take out things that I feel that is actually part of her. I can see maybe like a freckle over here has been taken out. So all I would need to do is make sure we're selected on our heel layer, and then I would get an eraser tool, just double check where it is, and I could just reduce the opacity a little bit so it's kind of there and kind of not, but then I can see where it is, and then I can make sure I can bring it back fully, restore the opacity, and it's done there. So it's taken out all the other little bits that I don't want, but with having it on a layer, it actually makes it quite easy to bring back anything that it may have accidentally taken out, because it doesn't know that it's a freckle necessarily. It doesn't know that I want to keep it in the shot. So it's nice that it's not just a flat layer, and you can still go back and change it. But that was pretty quick. That was really good in fairness as well. That's probably saved me a lot of time from using like the patch tool. So let's give it another try on a different image. So here's another shot, different model this time. Now she's got this lovely beauty spot, kind of partly covered up with a little bit of makeup down the bottom there. So I'm interested to see what the Retouch4Me panel will actually do with this. So let's get a little bit closer in there. Let's just move our panel to one side of our layers, come back to our heel again. Oh, make sure we've got it turned on. And then we're gonna press retouch and we'll see how good it is this time. And there we go. Again, it's not taking too long, and this is a fairly decent sized image. This is, nearly 5,000 pixels wide, so it's, it's a pretty large JPEG file. If we just look at the shot, I'm glad it's not really done anything down to her beauty spot here. That's great. We don't want to be removing anything like that, and potentially it's recognized it, or it's just not done anything to it. But if we just look back into what it has done, so that was the original, and then this is the now. So again, if we just look at the file, just the layer of the retouching, you can see all the little spots that's basically used, and you can see how it takes into consideration the skin tone. All these little spots, these kind of cover-ups are all different, so it does really read the original image, and it kind of covers it up quite nicely. So that's done a good job there. Now, let's have a look at some of the other tools underneath here. We've got the mattifier, okay? So what we're going to do, we're going to turn off heel. It doesn't get rid of the layer that we've been working on. That still stays there. We've still got that there, but it means we don't have to use it again. And obviously, we're not using for every single use of each of these plugins. It's going to use up a credit. Okay, so make sure you turn off what you don't need and just turn on what you do need. Now, let's play with the mattifier. Okay, so let's try and see if that will kind of take out any gloss or any shine of the skin and basically just matte it down a little bit more. So we press retouch. Same thing applies. We don't need to do anything else. Look, my hands are off the mouse here. I'm letting the retouch do its job. And again, depending upon how quick it is in terms of your internet speed, it may just take a couple of seconds to do. There we go, it's done. It's done before I've even managed to finish a sentence. So let's undo what it's done to begin with so we can see. And you can see maybe on the bridge of her nose, around her cheeks, just where the light, because I was using a flash in this instance, and where it's just softened it back a little bit more, and that's kind of what I was expecting. It's just basically matted the skin a little bit more, taking any shine away. So if you're working with models who are under bright lights a lot of the time, especially in a studio, get a little bit warm, perspire, that's totally normal. This can really, really help. So instead of having to use something like a clone stamp tool or a patch tool and basically patch it over with dry areas of skin, this has just done it. It's just done it for us already. So in fairness, again, very, very quick, very, very easy. Right, should we have a look at another one? Let's play with dodge and burn. Okay, so normally dodge and burn is effectively like a localized option to be able to brighten and darken areas independently. So you can use the little tools normally, and they've got them in Photoshop, so it's interesting to see how this is going to work in kind of an AI format. So exact same again. We're going to press that there, and we'll give it a go. And there we go. So we've now got a new layer. Now it looks a little bit different from the others. If I just basically turn them all off, and you can see this is effectively almost like a depth mapped layer. Everything's kind of very grayed here, and the white areas are basically what it's going to be selecting to look at for brightening, and other areas just for slightly darkening. So if we look at that in terms of the context of the shot overall, if we do a bit of a before and after, we'll get a little bit closer in on our skin. So this is what we've got currently with the dodge and burn effect on. If we take it off, it's soft, it's subtle, but you can see where it's worked. Maybe down by her lips, down by her cheek, you can see it a bit more. See where it's got a little bit of gradient of light. It's just softened that out, just evened that out slightly. So it's using different amounts of dodge and burn. So to dodge is to brighten, to burn is to darken. It's used different amounts of it. Again, we've not had to do it on our own. It's just all done it automatically, and it's just softened out the skin that little bit further. So I quite like that. It's subtle. I think you do have to play around with these tools a little bit to notice how big an effect it will have, because again, every single use of one of these tools, every time you click retouch, it's going to use a credit, so you don't really want to be wasting credits if you've not got kind of a lot to play with. So yeah, it's definitely, I think certainly the heal and the mattify tool are ones that you're probably going to use quite regularly. Right, okay, so we've got that there. I quite like the sets that we've got. Now what I'm actually going to try and do is maybe use some of these eye tools at the bottom instead, but we need to have some eyes in the shot. So I've got one that's a little bit closer, eyes a little bit more prominent, a bit more evenly lit. So I'm going to keep the skin tone on the eye vessels. There's a couple of little eye vessels that you can see in our model there, just faintly. I think if it's more prominent, if you're very, very close up, that probably would make more of an effect. But either way, let's keep it on. And the eye brilliance again. No teeth to worry about or anything like that. We'll turn on heal and mattify, dodge and burn, and we'll even give the portrait volumes a go. Since it's not going to cost us any more, let's just throw them all on, give it a whirl, and we'll see what it comes out with. And it's interesting to see now that we've got more plugins turned on. Is it going to take any longer than it was than when there was just heal turned on or just mattify really? Because that was only really about kind of couple of seconds in time to actually get them all done, but you can see the little progress bar at the bottom, and in times of taking it to me to say all that, it's probably been about 10, 12, 15 seconds, something like that. But you can see it's kicking out all the individual layers there, and it's nice that they've all been named as well, so we can kind of know exactly which tool has been effective where. So not too long. Let's turn them all off one by one and go through them all. So eye vessels. Oh, it's interesting. I didn't think that would be classed as vessels necessarily, but that's just around the tops of the eyes. It's taken out the crease. Don't really think that's kind of perfect. I can see around the actual, in the whites of the eyes, it's done a slightly better job, but it does give us a layer mask, which if you're familiar with layer mask, it's dead easy to get rid of these parts. So all you need to do is make sure you've got your brush set up on here, make sure your color panels are set to black and white, select white and just make your brush that little bit smaller. Apologies, set to black, don't we, obviously, if we're trying to hide. And we're just going to disguise more of the effect there. So we're going to take that away there, do it on the other side, so we can still play around with it. So we still get it actually on the whites of the eyes, but the AI, it's going to be like this. It's never always going to be perfect. No software is, okay? So I'm not just saying this isn't kind of perfect on its own and other things are, but it will happen. But the fact it's got a layer mask does make it a lot easier. Eye brilliance, okay, it's done the exact same again. It's decided to kind of add a little bit more, kind of rendering around the top of the eyes. Either way, if there's not a layer mask, you can add one to it. So all you need to do is then just stick a new layer mask on there, make sure you're set to black, and you can just do the exact same changes again. So don't know why that happened there. Heal, so that has done what we were expecting with the skin. It's just taken away a few of these blemishes you can see down here. It's added a little bit of whites to the eyes. Oh, sorry, no, apologies, I was clicking the wrong one there. But yeah, there we go. So it's just taking that off the eye. The mattifier will just take that slight gloss away from me using the flash. The dodge and burn, you can see how much it's just kind of drained back, kind of soften the skin out that little bit further. If you feel it's ever a little bit too much at times, you can go to the opacity tool and just bring it down a little bit more so you don't have to have the full effect. Skin tone, it's just removed. What you can possibly see is this kind of, oops, no, wrong tool again, that little bit of green yellowy tone around the bottom side of her face. It's just evened that out and made it that little bit warmer, so it's unifying the face a lot more. That's kind of quite nice. And portrait volumes, what it's added in here is a little bit more contrast. If I just step back, you may be able to see a little bit more. So it's added a bit more contrast to the face overall, around the inside of her nose, a little bit more of a darkening, kind of what I thought the dodge and burn may do, but this has done it to probably a greater effect. So it's added a little bit more shape to the face, and I think that's kind of quite important, especially when you're using flash, because sometimes when it's straight on, it can look kind of very bold and very flattening. So overall, if I effectively kind of turn everything off, it maybe if I actually group them all together, so we group them all, there we go, create a group, throw them all inside the group. There we go. And we turn them all off and on at the same time. You can see how much of an effect it's had kind of on the overall picture. Skin-wise, I think it's done a really, really nice job. There was a couple of little bit imperfections where it's decided to kind of add the AI around the eyes, but we managed to solve it. It didn't take too long, really. Okay, that's cool. Right, let's have a look at teeth now. I just want to have a look at teeth as the last couple of ones. So I need a portrait that's got some teeth. Here we go. Good friend Alex has got some lovely pearlers. But let's turn off all the other bits that we don't need. Okay, and we're just going to turn on white teeth. We've not really got any fabric in the background, so let's give that a go, see how it's going to change her teeth. There we go, a couple of seconds again, that's done a pretty good job. In fairness, doing editing teeth, it's not hard to do necessarily, but it's just the manual time it takes to go in with something like an adjustment brush or maybe like a dodge tool and just go in and just paint it individually. Whereas that, it's cost me like, 7 or 8 seconds and it's been absolutely fine. So let's just see it's the impact a bit more closely. So that's where they were originally, and that's how it's brightened them up a little bit more. If you feel it's gone a little bit too heavy, you can just use the opacity tool to kind of find a halfway house. But again, super quick. Very good quality. It's not affected any other parts of the shot. It's just that. I think that's kind of quite simple. Right, last one is fabric and clean backdrop. I've got a shot here that's... the backdrop itself is not awful. It's not problematic. It's just got a few lines in it here. You can probably see the lines in the background, and which makes it more of an obvious backdrop that's a fabric backdrop that I've used in the studio, and I just like it to be a bit more plain, a bit more subdued in a way, so it doesn't look so obvious. So let's turn on fabric, let's turn on clean backdrop, and it can see what it can do for us. Okay, the work is complete. We've got 2 new layers, obviously, because we've used 2 tools. Let's turn them off. Let's get a little bit closer over here so we can actually see what we were looking at. So you can see the lines in the background. The clean backdrop, it deals with it so well, so well. And how would I have done that otherwise? I would have had to maybe select the subject and then mask out the background from it. Either maybe add a new background via a gradient layer. How else could I have done it? I could have really, spent time using maybe like a blur tool otherwise, but I would have had to separate the subject from the background, which, yeah, it's tricky. It would be tricky, especially with a shot such as this, because of so many little fine hairs in there. And you can see just in between this, it's had to soften it in some areas, but it's not really kind of cost me anything. It doesn't like change the look of her overall. And you could certainly argue those wisps of hair would just blend out into infinity and you couldn't see it anyway, just because of how fine they go. So yeah, certainly it has saved time. It's been nice and clear, and it's good all around the other edges there. And it's maybe taken away a little bit of noise as well that was in the background. So whether it's done that because of by the smoothing, I think that's done well. Right, then the fabric. Okay, now this is taken into consideration the whole of the shot, because there are some fabrics and some materials that are on a little headdress here that, I don't know, I kind of like the detail there. But again, I can always erase it. I can use a layer mask and take it out. That's not a major problem. So I think maybe if you had a fabric backdrop, or if you were using other fabrics in your shot, then this could help somewhat just kind of smooth out the detailing in it a little bit more. I kind of like the detailing, so I probably wouldn't use fabric so much on a shot like this anyway, but certainly the clean backdrop will be very helpful. And that's it. That is effectively kind of all the tools that we've got there. I think it's been very simple, and in fairness, across all the images that we've used, all the little tweaks that we've used, we've only used 10 credits. I think I used a couple to begin with just when I was playing it out before we went live on this video. So the fact that we've only used 10 credits, I've got loads left to play with. So if I've got loads of images to work through, then it's not really going to cost me a lot, in fairness, is it? And I think it's done a very good job. It will certainly save me a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of hassle, more so than anything when I'm having to retouch this on a shot and then do the exact same thing on a shot later on. I can literally just go through and just kind of keep press and retouch on every picture, and I know it'll standardize it, and I know it'll do it to a really good job. So yeah, check it out if you're a portrait photographer. If you do a lot of retouching and you just want to save yourself a bit of hassle, you just don't want to stress, be sat on your computer until 3 o'clock in the morning, then check out Retouch4Me. I think it'll be very useful for a number of different types of photography, whether it is weddings, commercial, headshots, portraits, fashion, anything like that. I think it kind of covers quite a wide range of tools. But yeah, cracking work. Well done. Thank you so much for watching.